Welcome to Touch Revolution, the podcast where the value of thoughtful, helpful, and ethical touch is fully realized. Brought to you by Kikino Institute of Healing, a rigorous massage school and clinic. Join us on this journey as we delve into the world of touch therapy, exploring its powerful effects on the mind, body, and soul. So, get ready to embark on a captivating exploration of touch therapy. It's time to revolutionize the way we heal, one soothing touch at a time.
Welcome to Touch Revolution. This is John James. We are here at our sponsor's office, Kikino Institute of Healing in the North Dallas area. Kikino trains 60 students a year, and we see about 800 patients a month. Today, we have a very special guest, maybe kind of a crowning moment of a person's career to have him here. Etienne Peirsman is here to sit and talk with us. As far as cranial sacral therapy goes, he's a star in our mind. And so we are very excited to have him here, and we'll go ahead and welcome him here to the podcast. Etienne. Hi, Etienne. How are you?
I'm just great. Yeah. I'm happy to talk.
Good. You like to talk about body work. You like to talk about touch, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Good.
It's
Etienne,
what makes us human, right?
Yes, absolutely. Tell us about you a little bit so that a lot of our audience, I've noticed in a lot of your podcasts that you're being podcasted by people that don't know about cranial sacral therapy frequently. That's not the case here at Kikino. We've had a lot of training there, and we have, when we read about you, we've experienced something very similar to you, is that we felt like cranial was not quite as mechanical as it was being made. And so we were looking for someone perhaps guide us next, and that in many respects we feel like that's you. So thank you so much for being here. Tell me how you came to know cranial sacral therapy, if you can, please.
Yes. Well, it's a life story, and the way I came to craniosacral is not like most people from a healing perspective. I didn't come as a healer or as a massage therapist to craniosacral, but there was a part in my life that, I was kind of into drugs and, growing up and having to move out of society, finding myself. And I overdid it quite a lot. And at a certain moment, my body just gave up. I was ready to die. And I did that. I went through a dying process, which is, by the way, a very interesting topic also. But what I experienced just before the death process started to happen, of course, once I realized my body was at the end of its life, of course I panicked. And when you panic and there is nothing you can do, then things happen. And for me, what happened, I did a meditation. I just sat down and started to meditate. And after maybe 15 minutes, I found myself in total no mind, which lasted for a few years. And that space of total silence, total acceptance of whatever is going on, that was so enticing, so satisfying, something I was looking for actually I found what I was looking for. But at the same time, my body was totally ruined. My kidneys were 70% on one side,
Right.
the other almost 90% dead material. My heart valves were totally gone. So, what you do then? Well, you cannot do anything else but die.
Right.
But then, somehow I stayed alive, went into the woods in Belgium, and within 4 days, I just stayed in the woods meditating around within a little forest. And after 4 days, my kidneys were totally healed. My heart was totally healed. Yeah, you could say, amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. And so, yeah, then I realized, hey, it's not for nothing that I stayed alive and had this experience with.
Right.
So I started looking, what can I do? And of course, I was already connected to Osho, um,
Right.
Bhagwan. So I went there to the ashram just a few weeks before he left his body. And I could feel, this was what I needed to do, that to connect to that atmosphere of meditation. And as a present to myself, just to heal my body more, to get my energy back, I went into a rebalancing training. Is the same thing that Wilco went into. And in that training, they gave 4 days of cranio. And as soon as that started, I knew this is it. This
Right.
is same space. This is the same silence, the same, yeah, as a death experience. I recognized it immediately. This is why I stayed alive, to share this feeling and to dive deeper, to share the feeling, not yet, but to dive deeper into that, yeah, what was called craniosacral therapy. And this was what year was it? 1990. And I haven't been doing anything else since then, just exploring more and more and more. And of course, at a certain point, which was very fast, people started asking me to teach. And that's the best way to learn something, is to have to explain it and to have to share it so people can get it, not just mentally, but also, yeah, total, with their whole being, getting into that same space.
Right.
And yeah, that's still happening. For me, it's still a crystallization. Well, crystallization is it's exactly the opposite as crystallization. It's a total expansion of yeah, of a field, that field of silence and of creativity. Uh, it's not a silence; it's an active silence.
Right.
Yeah. So that's in a nutshell. Um,
That's
yeah,
amazing. It's amazing how we all kind of have a moment where we've tried to figure out, like, how am I going to use what I'm learning to
yeah,
make a difference?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's something here at Kikino that we seek for each of our students. Each of our students every year, we're trying to help them find, like, what happened, like, why are you here? And so, thank you for sharing that with me. I've heard that story before,
ha,
and we could probably all stand going to the woods, and you know, that would probably be good for all of us. Did you
yeah,
start? Did you get some training? I know you worked with Upledger, and I know you wrote a book in 2006 about babies, which was really my first contact with you. To be really honest, was when you wrote the book. Is when I first came across you,
uh-huh.
uh, and that book was so I had so much reverence for that book. Your baby positioning is a lot like the work I do with babies, and so it caught my eye. And so, thank you so much. But I noticed Upledger did the forward in that book, um, and so you obviously had some sort of contact with Upledger along the way. Can you?
Well, yes, that was quite interesting. Was an
Yeah,
interesting person, and yeah, there's so much politics going on at that institute, but that's besides the point. But I took, in the days that I started to learn about cranio, biodynamic wasn't even talked about.
right,
Rhythms, everybody, nobody knew exactly what cranio was. And that's a perfect position for me.
Right.
to not being forced, but the openness, all right, figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
But then, Upledger was about the only one. He was the Pope of craniosacral at that point. So I had to go see him. So I moved to Florida, and yeah, I spent about 3 years, hanging out in and out of the institute. And yeah, I learned basically how not to do cranio.
Right.
That's, that's also what you learn from your teachers, I
Right.
find.
Yeah.
You know, you see where they can't go. So they give you a place, yeah, to grow from. And with John Upledger, yeah, man, he was brilliant. What he
Right.
added to craniosacral, the work with cells, the talking part, the brain work also.
Hmm.
He was brilliant, but he had a lot of hookups also, like we all do. Yeah, I also have my hookups. You probably also have your
Yeah.
hookups.
That's for sure.
Yeah, it was nice to connect to him. And at a certain point, I found this is not my place. And it took me almost 3 years to get over the trauma of having been there. It took
Hmm.
me almost 3 years to
Yeah.
find my own way of doing. Yeah.
Yeah. It took 3 years. It probably took a lot of practice as well. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, and I hear from Wilco, about your baby work, and he was amazed. And yes, me too. If I hear how you treat babies, it's the way it should be done. But yes, I sometimes in the beginning did 12 sessions a day for months and months and months.
Right.
I had this absolute drive to figure out what my limit is, but also to figure out what can Cranio give me. Yeah, what is it in that silence that I can learn? And
Right.
yeah, in the beginning, it was hundreds, thousands of sessions. And if I hear, you do 900 clients a month, wow. Yeah,
Right.
that's the way you learn it.
Yeah, so
That's
that's something that's unique here is we teach we believe education is important, but not absent practice. And I've been practicing 33 years this year. So I have people that come to me to talk to me about how or to ask me how to become successful. And I would say in 100% of those cases they're not practicing enough
yeah.
and they're not applying the principles to themselves. And usually my coaching is see as many patients as you can possibly see in a week, and then see what your question is. Then your question is probably going to change, and then also do your own work, um, making sure that you're doing your own work. So
Oh, yeah, that's doing your own work. Before I came to Cranio, I must have done maybe, this was in the 70s. A lot of, in those days, the only thing available was primal scream and all that rebirthing and emotional work. I did thousands of hours of that,
that's amazing.
just screaming.
Was
Yeah.
the rebirthing work part of Osho's practice?
Yes, there was, I think the guy was or something, the one that came out with that in the US. And in Osho's work, um, in the beginning, all these famous therapists, they all gathered in the ashram there. It was, yeah, it was the place to learn any therapy you could
Right.
imagine. It was all there. It was like a pressure cooker. And
Wow.
of course, breath work is, you cannot, and emotional work, you cannot get anywhere if you don't work with that. Yeah, it's
Right.
it's so important.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. What, you know, just to be clear to our audience, you're gonna be here, I believe, in March of
Yes,
25. You prefer to teach 2 4-day classes with a one with the 5th day being off, so 4 days, a day off, and then another 4 days.
yes, yes,
And you referred to that as the immersive effect, and,
yes.
uh, and we're certainly aligned with that. We've experienced that a lot here, that when we do something more intensive, people tend to it tends to alter them in a way that they're never the same again.
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
we appreciate that effect, and we're certainly excited about that as well. You're coming here to teach about the brain,
Uh-huh.
because you're teaching master classes, and you're also teaching birth and dying, is that correct?
Yes, that's a new one. I used to teach baby classes a lot. Yeah, of
Right,
course, with the baby book, that's why people ask me. But yeah, things change, and
right.
I haven't done baby work or giving that class for a few years now. But I noticed in the baby class, the first 2 days, it's about people's own experience about their own birth.
Absolutely.
So, and I found that 2 days, you just scratch the surface.
Yes.
No, it's okay. They go into a rebirth. They go because I combine always rebirth with dying also. I go
Right.
to the two aspects at the same time. And it's just like scratching the surface. And also, if you want to reset a person after rebirth, you have to also work with their brain. Certain parts of the brain get activated by sound, by mom's sound. So if you reset 9 months in the womb, you give people a chance to look where did stuff happen that's still in the body, and then you reset it. Afterwards, you need to also go to the brain because it needs to wake up. And in this case, it needs to wake up with a new background of having been reset. So, yeah, I found it necessary to stretch that birthing process into 4 days. Then, the way I do it is then we have a day break and then we go into death and dying, which is the opposite. And
Right.
yes, I'm giving that class now, also that 9 day format. And sometimes I switch it first death and dying, then birthing.
Wow.
It's something to play with. I need to
Yeah.
have fun also, right? So,
Right. Exactly.
yeah, I need to squeeze my brain how to do it now, in the
Right.
reverse. So, yeah, that's fun.
That is fun. We're excited about having you here, to teach the class. There's a in your writing about coming here, um, you have mentioned, full spectrum biodynamic.
Yeah.
I may be backtracking here a little bit, but I wanna make sure that we give this at the respect it deserves, because this would be when people begin to, uh, confuse you with a mechanical cranial therapist. This would be the 3 words that would provide the explanation that
Yes.
shows us with that that's not what it is,
No,
and
absolutely.
yet it's still profoundly cranial.
Yeah.
And so could you talk to me a little bit about,
Yes,
yeah.
that confusion started with, and you mentioned it, the foreword of Upledger to my baby book. He
Mhm.
had nothing to do with that baby book at all.
Right.
But in those days, I needed a foreword. So
Yeah,
I
of course.
asked him, because I knew him, and we had been drunk a few times. So then you know somebody a little better. So I asked him write a forward. So he wrote something. I said, I don't like it. Write another one. So the third one is actually the forward in the book. But then, on Amazon, the book was sold as an Upledger book
Mm,
because his name is on there. You know,
right.
of course, the editor or the printer, North Atlantic, because I was an unknown in the cranial world,
Right.
used his name to promote the book. But anyway, this is so many years ago. But the full spectrum, um, without my knowing, people started to advertise me as a biodynamic teacher. And I never liked to be labeled. You know, my work is my work. And of course, I looked at techniques from Upledger, from Hugh Milner, Franklin Sills, all these people. I've seen their books. And of course, that's what Cranio is all about. It's about you and touch, not about what somebody else tells you what to do.
Yeah.
You hold whatever you have and you use that. And then I started noticing, and this is from the very beginning. In the day that I started with Cranio, nobody was talking about the mid tide and the long tide. And I noticed later that from the very beginning, and that's with that experience and the no mind experience, that I was always working in the long tide. It's just my natural way. When I touch, I go silent immediately.
Hmm.
And yeah, I found myself actually being what they call biodynamic. But I never wanted to label that. So, yeah, then they started calling me a biodynamic teacher. But that's not really, uh, that's just one aspect of the fullness of craniosacral. You know, I find that when you have a modality like craniosacral and you cannot talk to a client while you're in that deep space, you're missing so
Hmm.
much. When you feel that you need to move a bone just to get it going, and you're not allowed because you're biodynamic, you're missing something. It needs not just sitting there being in meditation and let the bones move, fantastic, but you're a person, you're alive, you have energy, you want to move sometimes. And of course, people have emotions. They need to get these emotions out. And
Right.
yeah, I think if you are a craniosacral person, cranio alone is not enough. It's just not enough. You need more. You
Right.
need more. You need to do, yeah, whatever is in your baggage, in your luggage, all the
Mm.
techniques that are out there. That's why also Wilco is part of my diploma program. His classes, his SOAS classes, are
Right.
so important. You know, it's part of what if people want a diploma, you have to do one or two classes of Wilco. And my women students, you know, I asked them to also take vaginal work. So
Mommy.
that
Mm.
is also looked at and part of how can a woman be totally clear if that area is
Right.
not clear? It's the most important part of life itself,
Yeah.
that work. So yeah, you know, that's why to make a distinction, I call it full spectrum.
Yes.
And the name actually, full spectrum, comes from CBD cubes. You have CBD cubes, full spectrum CBD.
Right.
That's where I stole the name.
That's perfect. Mm.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for explaining that. Sometimes we have to kind of put a name with something to kind of hold the space,
Yes.
you know? And in time, maybe that will change. Who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah.
y-
Um, you're I was going to ask you, and you were mentioning. I'm asking this right now because you mentioned it that sometimes you have to talk. Therapeutic dialogue is something that in one of our classes here that I teach, um, we were having a discussion about the necessity of conversation or the shortcut that conversation frequently is.
That's it.
It's often a really nice conversation, and rather than just listening to the contents of what someone is saying, I need to listen to how they're carrying the subject. And so can you reflect on that? Are we in alignment there? What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, in my program, I do what I call a radical transformation or self empowerment program, which is 9 classes
Right.
um, within 2 months. So it's people really go through the mill
Yeah.
there. And the first talking class is talking to the heart. And by
Right.
the way, that's also where we're going to start with in the brain class.
Yes.
The heart is part of the brain. When the brain develops, yeah, first thing it will do is create the heart. The
Yeah.
neurological structure of the heart is brain matter.
Yeah.
And also, that's the first organ that starts to
Mhm.
function. So, the first day of the brain class, we will go into the heart and we will look at, and to me, that's the mother of all trauma. What prevents you from being able to love or let love in? What is it that disconnects you from life? And that's all heart and heart protector. Yeah.
Right.
And that's, it's such a shortcut to most trauma that people carry. To go just look at that, the very foundation of where they disconnect from their environment, from other people, from everything.
Right.
And how does that look? And the beauty of this is we do not go into the trauma aspect of it. We just describe the form. What is that heart protector? How does it look like? How do
Right.
you feel your heart protector? Why is it, yeah, that things cannot go out? And of course, they automatically come to what happened, but not in a traumatic sense of going there, but just as a description. It's like
Right.
describing the landscape. Now,
Right.
okay, once you describe it, how do you want it to be?
Mhm.
And then automatically you come to the one of the aspects of what the heart is all about. If you look at the triple heater, that meridian,
Mhm.
uh, it describes your own energy, it describes the everyday energy you take in. And the third aspect of the triple heater is about the heart. It's about the transformation of energy. The heart is an organ that maybe the only organ in the body that has the ability to transform anything. So
Mm.
when we go to that aspect, how do you change it? It's a natural thing for people to be able to change what was into what they need, what they want. So, yeah, that's talking. You need to ask questions there, but simple, like a baby, or not a baby, like a 5, 6, 7 year old.
Right.
That's the language that we all remember, the language before we went to school,
Right.
because their language needs to be correct. Yeah, language needs to be right, the right answer to the questions. Here, we are not looking for the right answers. We are looking for what is natural. What is it? What is your intuition telling you? So, yeah, that's a little bit, everybody knows how to talk silly or natural, or that voice of a 5, 6, 7 year old. So that's where the talking comes in not as therapeutic, but it is, of course, but as natural as
Right.
how does it feel, um, type of thing.
Yeah, I notice we a lot of times clients are feeling something and trying to figure out how to quit feeling it. That's actually what that's what they come here for is they feel something. We do a lot of trauma work here, and they feel it, and they want to know what can I do to not feel this anymore. And I'm like, well, I've got some good news is we know how to help you, and the bad news is that you're going to have to feel it more than you've ever felt it. and so and so that's a game we are already fully playing here, and yet it's a little different perspective you have the way you're explaining it, and I like that. It's different. I can that's very helpful.
Yeah, it's something to play with. You're going to be in class, right?
Oh my gosh, of course. Yeah. We're
Yes, you'll
joking that we're you're
have
pretty much gonna shut my
oh,
company down for 2 weeks, uh, so it's gonna be yeah, we've got a lot of people excited. I haven't looked to see where we are on numbers, but we got a lot of people. We'll use mainly, people here at Kakino. We've been here 20 years, and we train 60 students a year and see a lot of people, so we're inviting all sorts of people that seem like a good fit, and then we'll do some preparatory work with everyone to make sure everybody's ready.
all
That's
right.
kind of our style is to kind of make see if we can't hand you the best group of students you've had, so that we can go as far, so we can go really far.
All
And
right.
so,
Fantastic.
does that
And
sound okay to you?
the brain work is so simple. It
Yeah.
is so easy. No neurological. Uh, yeah, it's very simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example? I think this would be helpful for us. An example of how you would use, like, what is a therapeutic model? What does a treatment look like for you, using brain work?
Um,
Starting, I'm assuming you always start with the heart.
well, yes. Well, that's special for the class,
Oh, okay.
for the brain class, just to get people used to. Um, yeah, used to love. That if we go into the heart and we open their heart protector, there is a natural flow already going. The second aspect, and that's the start of brain work, craniosacral works with the environment of the brain. All right, the brain is in a watery environment. It's like a jellyfish, inside
Right.
of a bag. And it lives in water. So there is some protection it has. So from the heart, we go into the stress cascade. When there is danger, how does the brain react to it? And that's the second, in my view, the second aspect of trauma is not being able or not understanding what the fight flight reaction is and how these muscles, and just paying attention how it makes you produce stress hormones all the time. So
Right.
that's the second aspect we will go into, how to find these specific places that are related to your stress reaction, to our stress reaction. So with cranio, usually the shoulders are the place where you align to the midline. It's like vacation, hands on the
Right.
shoulders. Everybody goes deep, and from there you keep going. With the brain, we connect to the ventricles. They're the only place in the brain that's different because it's fluid, it's hot, it's different. So you can easily find them. And that's the key in all that work is where are you in the brain? Because it's complicated, but that's simple at the same time. But you need a map. And with the ventricles, that's the easiest way to connect also, because the funny thing is, if you connect to ventricles, oops, there, this is my hand relaxed like that.
Hmm.
And if you put that on the head, you're exactly on the ventricles. Ventricles you find when you're totally relaxed, when your hands are relaxed. And one of the things we will do is, all right, these are the ventricles. Now let's change their shape. How to do that? How let the ventricles move? And yeah, that's where we start. And that's, wow, I can do this. I can feel this.
Right.
And of course, if you change the ventricles, which is the center of the brain, the whole brain changes shape and it's going to start working differently. So just that alone will change how the whole brain works. And by the way, another one of the techniques that I have used so much with children, with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 year olds, is just hold the brain and connect to the motility, how the brain moves, and just sit there and follow it for half an hour. Okay, that's it, go home. Just
Right.
giving the brain the chance to do it itself. Just follow its stops, its thousands of stops. Yeah.
Right.
And that's also, sometimes I remember doing that for in one cycle, it's 20 minutes to go out, 20 minutes for it to just go one cycle.
And this is the long cycle you're talking about, right?
Yes, but this is the long cycle
Yeah.
stretched out,
Yeah. That's
because hey,
fantastic.
long cycle, one cycle is 2 minutes.
Right.
Now I go 20 minutes. So you really go into the depth of, yeah, connecting to cells individually and giving them the chance to, well, when cells have to release stuff, it's like, yeah, it's a sanitary stop basically for every.
Right.
Yeah, they have to release. So yeah, a sanitary stop can take a while.
Well,
And
you notice, I'm noticing, the patience required of the therapist that's going to honor a 20-minute cycle. And that's some work because a lot of times, especially in the beginning of a career, we get in our head and we're like, we do a lot of belly work here, a lot of visceral work, and
Mhm.
have for my entire career. Um, and even just getting comfortable doing that. But I think it's really important that we learn that these things are reflective of the reality of the human body. And because what an incredible honor to honor a 20-minute cycle. I think it's incredible. I mean, the person would never be the same after that.
No, that's
No.
for sure. Yes, yes, yes.
No.
But as a practitioner, it takes a while to
Hmm.
comfortable with non-doing. It takes a while, and all right, you see the hair took a while.
Right. That's amazing. That's really helpful to think about about those different aspects of your work. Something I'm curious about we've seen here is we've seen our work affect fertility. Um, I try to ask this of advanced therapists across the board. And do you see that happening in your practice over the years of where people are dealing with infertility and the next thing you know they're pregnant?
Oh yeah, I had a few students being angry at me, although I told them, be
You
careful.
better be careful.
Did you use a condom? No. Yeah, what can I do? But one this is maybe I tell this story, and probably I'll tell it also in the brain class. There was this student who couldn't get pregnant. She was, I think, 30. And, what to do. Well, yeah, she got checked. Eggs okay, husband sperm okay. So come for a session. So she comes for a session, and yeah, all right. I had no clue what to do. Usually, I have no clue when I start. So I just hold her head and started talking to her heart. And she started talking about when she was growing up. And this is a perfect example about what talking can realize. So she was talking about her dad, who was in the Second World War with the enemy. So they
Mhm.
put him in jail, bad guy in jail, 10 years in jail, comes out, creates a family, and now he has to act nice in society. But at home, he was still a terror.
Oh
And
no.
he never, ever touched the girls, never was physically, but mentally and
Yeah.
emotionally. So what happened was, and this is just crazy, the heart protector is a membrane around the heart.
Sure.
The heart protector took it upon himself to also include the ovaries,
Right.
the offspring, the future, the DNA, into his protection. And whatever she tried, she couldn't get pregnant.
Mm.
So now I had to convince the heart protector, hey, thank you, yeah, for protecting. Can you just retreat so that she can get pregnant? Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. So at that point, I'm asking the client, can you lend your voice to your heart? Can you lend your voice to the heart protector so we can have a direct conversation with that consciousness? He wouldn't budge. Then it dawned on me, wow, heart protector, you did your life task perfectly. You protect her. The father is dead, and so on. She makes her own money. She has her own house. She's a grown up person.
Mhm.
Can you now also allow the ovaries to fulfill their life task? You did yours perfectly. Can you
Mhm.
allow that? It took the heart protector almost a minute. And then I hear, okay,
Yeah.
just like that. And it retreated. And a few months later, I got a message she was pregnant.
That's amazing. Did she name the baby after you?
It
No?
was a girl.
Oh, Eddie? That's
No,
amazing.
no, I saw the kid 11 years later.
Oh,
And she's also in the baby book. That,
really?
that baby is beautiful visitor at the
Oh,
end. That little
oh.
baby. And when she came to class, was a demo. She put the baby on the table, and the only thing I could do was make a womb around that baby. It was, and I,
Sometimes sometimes people ask about generational healing, and, you just explained that.
yeah,
Because if she had never gotten pregnant, how would you heal a generation without an offspring? And so we look at that a lot. And I know that there's some healing to do, but one of the most powerful ways to heal is being able to navigate that, and then she has a baby, and the baby gets raised in the light of that work. That's just amazing. That's a really amazing story. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm at this point. I have a book ready to be printed.
Oh, you have
Maybe,
another book?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
but it's totally done. But we are in a lawsuit with my ex
Oh,
administrator, and she keeps the file, as a bargaining chip. But one of the main aspects of the book, and Wilco has a chapter. Two women that do vaginal work have a chapter in there.
yeah. I'm assuming Ami Opal is one.
Army
Yeah.
Opal and a physical
Yeah.
therapist from San
Ami's
Jose
Ami's
also.
been here to Kikino.
I
So
heard, I
yeah,
heard.
yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
she's lovely. We
Yeah.
love her. But go ahead. Sorry.
And the main thing, talking about generational thing, the main thing, or the first chapter of the book is about Lotus Bird. It's
Right.
yeah, all right, if you want to heal the
Mm,
world, create a world without aggression at the beginning,
right.
but also without greed.
Yeah.
If a baby is born with all the stem cells and everything out of that placenta, able to migrate into a baby, millions of stem cells are in the umbilical cord.
Right.
They
Right.
need, they're the babies. They need to go in a
Yes.
baby. So at that point, when that happens, there is no problem anymore. The person
Exactly.
is perfect.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
We
I
wouldn't have to rebirth anymore. I mean, I'm curious if it would remove or diminish the need for rebirthing, you know?
well, yeah,
I mean,
there's always the parents, of course.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So you mentioned stem cells. You've done a lot of work on that's kind of a new thing for you, or something of recent interest?
It's just the last, yeah, maybe 15 years I've been, since that word popped up, stem cells, and
Mhm.
uh, when I started also, it gave me new insight basically in, all right, what is a body? How do I explain when an egg and a sperm come together, the
Right.
beginning of life? How do I explain that? And then, okay, a fertilized egg that's sitting on your chair there, John James. It has a name now. It's called John James, but it's basically one cell.
Right.
That's the start. That's the first stem cell. And also, that's how life started millions of years ago. And that's also how we start in mom's belly as one
Mhm.
stem cell. I all these words I got and I threw them all out of the book. I can't remember those. They don't tell me anything about their purpose. But if I talk, all right, this is how you started as a stem cell and creation starts to happen. How does that work? But that creation, those stem cells, that's a continuum. The body is never a finished product. It
Right.
is always changing, always creating. So this is what we are, never ending creation, never ending change.
Right.
So, right, get to it, keep changing your whole life. And I'm telling that, and I'm in a new relationship for the last 2, 3 years. And this woman is a woman. And, she forces me to keep on changing.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not easy at my age to drop my habits. Yeah,
Right.
I've been alone for so many years, once in a while a relationship, but I'm a creature of habit.
Right.
If, I'm not in front of the class, I'm a creature of habit.
Mm.
So I have to be true to my word
Right.
and do, yeah, in my individual life what I tell students to do. Oh my, oh my. I'm facing the mirror here.
Yeah, that's true. When we first started talking today, though, we kind of ran off before we started recording. We were running off regarding the field of stem cells.
Yes.
Do you feel like you've covered that, or is there more to say there?
Well, yeah, it's every class, every day in class, I have to talk about stem cells,
Right.
about yeah, because it's the essence of healing is yeah, cells need to be replaced, and who's going to replace them?
And
Well,
is that where the 84 days comes in as well?
yes, 84 days means your body. our body within 84 days, it's totally different. Not one cell is the same, maybe a few, but we are continuously having
Regenerating. Right.
recreate, regenerate. That's a continuum. So immune work, is something that the body already knows.
Right.
It's not such a, yeah, difficult thing to do.
It's kind of optimistic though. It's really nice.
Yeah.
But to think, oh wait a minute, it's not too late. Another 84 days and I'll be a new person. And
Yes.
so but it also is quite a responsibility.
Yes,
Um,
it is. And also it gives healing a whole different perspective.
it does. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you're healed, yeah, okay. The body knows already how to deal with it. So what is it that prevents you from doing these things? And that's
Right.
basically how I deal with trauma. What is it that prevents your liver from or something else?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I don't go into the story as much, but let the person, if they want to go in the story, it will come up, but it's basically more looking at it from a distance instead of
Mhm.
stepping into
Yeah,
it.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Um, I wanna I'm kinda all over the place here, but I've got something I wanna cover. Something we always say, mentors of ours have said is that specialized knowledge is always becoming general knowledge over time. And I always use craniosacral therapy as an example. The first person ever taught me how to feel cranial rhythm was John Barnes.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that was in 1991, so a long time ago. And that's when I
Oh,
first
yeah.
started exploring that world. But I had beginning back then, I would teach that craniosacral therapy had to do pretty strictly to do with the flow of cerebral spinal fluid. And even now, with the way it's explained, it's still very much like that. I'm curious, like, how do you explain craniosacral therapy? Because when someone who's already had some of the mechanistic training is listening, they're like, "Well, where's the cranial training? Where's the cranial? Where's like?" Because it is in their mind very focused in cranial and sacral and how those are interdependent. And so I was wondering if I'm curious what your thought is on that, or what you could say. Are you understanding my question?
Yes, yes, yes. I think it was a bit difficult, but I think how I don't explain craniosacral at all.
Okay.
Uh, I go from a different perspective into it, and maybe the easiest way to say how I work with it is also in the basic classes. Um, I do not go into letting them feel the cranial rhythm. Um, I know from when I was learning it how confusing that can be,
Very.
because then it becomes something. Do you feel it? Oh no, I didn't feel it. I can't feel it. So when we go to shoulders, that's usually, yeah, where it's easiest to feel. I let them feel all the different motions that are happening there. And then I just tell them, all right, slow down, slow down, slow down. Whatever you feel, keep slowing it down. And I bring them to the midline.
Uh,
And when they start slowing down and they connect to that midline, then something magical happens, which is all right, the brain cannot follow. You cannot keep on thinking when you start going into that midline.
that's
The
so
brain
true.
just has to stop. Yeah. And
Mhm.
that is my way into craniosacral.
Mm.
So I've gone away from rhythms. Of
Yeah.
course, now when we do frontal lift, all
Right.
right, you put your hands, yeah, and what is happening? Just
Right.
follow what is happening. And
Right.
then at a certain point, all right, now again, start slowing down. And so, yeah, I've uh, departed from explaining what is craniosacral, what
Yeah.
is a craniosacral system. Of course,
Yeah.
it will be explained when I do the anatomy, but I let them feel it first before there is an
Yeah.
explanation how it moves, which is actually a very simple explanation how
Yeah.
fluid comes in, pushes, and then disappears. Yeah, they
Mm.
get the explanation, but it's not, the emphasis is not on rhythms anymore, but
Yeah.
on slowing down and going. Yeah, I call it going through the eye of the needle into
Right.
the no mind space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's where magic happens.
Right.
Yeah,
And, when you talked about contacting by the way, I know you weren't trying to explain, but that was a beautiful explanation, so thank you. That was really nice. That was very helpful. When you were talking about contacting people and then backing I don't know if that's the word used, backing out, you're looking for that no mind space, is that correct?
yes,
Yeah, and then even as you begin to navigate and, towards the midline, you're also looking for that no mind space, right?
yeah,
And it's not it's for you and and the person being treated, right? Both
totally,
of you.
totally.
Yeah,
To me, that is there is an explanation there. When I, maybe this is a better way of explaining the whole craniosacral uh, situation. When stem cells start to create, they create those three layers.
right,
And then the midline comes, there's a line suddenly in the middle, the notochord, it's called officially. And if it doesn't happen, creation will happen. The three layers will close into the neural tube, which is a tube of pure stem cells, but
right,
not any form yet, just stem cells. And they will create, but what they create can't live. There is no order. Now, if the midline does come, same thing happens, neural tube, but the midline, and this to me is a very important thing to understand, the midline brings clarity to
mm,
every stem cell, clarity about purpose. What is it they're going to do in this life? But
mhm,
also their placement within the body. Where do they need to migrate to? And that's the visceral aspect. Where do they need to migrate to fulfill their purpose? And then the third aspect of that clarity is, what about the timing? When is the right moment?
right,
So, midline, always, 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 because when the midline appears, there is no brain yet. There cannot be any thinking.
right,
So when I bring clients into, or students into that space, they go back into stem cell mode,
right,
and thinking is not possible.
yeah,
So, but what is replaced by thinking is absolute clarity
right,
about where am I in my life. And that's something I realized when I do cranio, questions to answers, or answers to questions that I have suddenly start popping up.
mm,
Suddenly I know what I need to know.
right,
And this is cranio,
yeah,
the clarity of everything in life will pop up out of that midline because it brings total clarity. That's its
right,
purpose. And
right, yeah, and there's like a distortion of some sort that goes away, it
yeah,
seems, yeah, making things easier to see and hear, or
yeah.
more clear. That's outstanding. This beautiful explanation. I love that. I think we're seeing that here. It's gonna be so fun to work with you.
All
Uh,
right.
in
Yeah.
your writing, you mentioned the 3 mothers.
Oh, yeah.
Um, And so is there some overlap there? Is that a new subject, or are we uh
Well,
okay.
it's one of those things, yeah, I'm always looking for new information that I read here and there. And one of the things was during COVID. By the way, when COVID was happening, I kept on teaching the whole year without masks, without
Mm,
gloves, no cleaning of the hands, just let's go. But
mhm.
what I did was every class I started with, I call it the COVID protocol, which is just connecting to thymus and making sure that thymus is as fully active as possible. Now, in that whole year, nobody got COVID.
Right.
It's such a, I forgot your question, but I need to tell
No,
this.
yeah, keep doing this. I like this is good.
And, the reaction to COVID of the whole world is fear. You're
Right.
going to get it. You need to be, da, 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 da. It's going to kill you. Now, if you go into that reaction, you go into a fight flight mode, which means you create stress hormones. And if
Right.
you create that amount of stress hormones, your immune system is going to go boom, no
Right.
energy anymore. So, of course, you're going to get it. But it's the reaction, it's the fear that
Right.
creates the danger. And immune cells, for millions of years, we had to deal with all kinds of COVIDs.
Right.
Some people cannot take it. Yes, too bad. But humanity has learned how to survive. Now, one of the things that happened, oh, yeah, that's your question. At one point, I was reading an article about how we created a womb and
Mhm.
how we created um, a placenta um, barrier so that first of all that we could carry eggs with us instead of laying them, and then also how to protect the eggs from the immune system of mom.
Right.
And the reason that that happened was uh, two viruses that were in inside of the body and somehow work together with the own cells to create a womb and to create a placenta barrier. And this is, not an imaginary thing. This is
Of
a
course.
scientific thing. And those viruses have a wonderful name with numbers and things like that. So it's, yeah, the way it worked. So then I started thinking about self love. It just came by itself at a certain point. Hey, mom basically wants to kill the baby. For mom, the baby is a parasite. For mom's immune
Right.
system,
Yeah.
that's what the immune system is going to do. It's going to try to kill all the sperm to start with, and then it's trying to going to kill something inside that's not mom's DNA. So mom's immune system works perfect trying to kill it, but it cannot because it's protected.
Right.
So, all right, and this comes on top of lotus bird, the importance of placenta.
Mhm.
Placenta is actually, yeah, your own self
Right.
feeding you. Of course, mom brings the nutrients, but placenta is all the organs that make it possible for the baby, yeah, to grow. So that's what I call the first mom is yourself, your own placenta,
Yeah.
which is cut off. That's the tragic thing, that we don't look at it.
So,
It's
Etienne, I don't want you to lose your thought, but I want to mention the lotus birth and make sure those that listen are listening. It is so uncommon to have a lotus birth. We've worked with it here, but a lotus birth is where it's not delayed cord cutting; it's no cord cutting. So
I
the
don't.
placenta is left intact until it naturally falls off, and it's left in a bag or in something with herbs. And am I does that explain well enough, you think?
Oh yeah, you go home with in one hand placenta, in the other hand the
Yeah,
baby.
got a baby in the other hand. Right. Exactly. And it's quite a commitment. And around these parts here, it takes a little work to find somebody that'll even do it. We have a midwife here on staff here, this midwife and body worker who you'll get to work with. Um, I think you've already met her, Megan. But anyways,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
she's worked with Lotus Birth some, and so I wanted our audience to know what you were talking about, because it is so uncommon, but it's logical, right? Notice how often the right answer is just the logical one.
Well,
But
yes, it's the part of it is the non-aggression.
yeah,
Absolute. Believing in nature itself, not trying to be smarter than nature by cutting it off or
right.
clamping it down, but just chimpanzees do it, and
That's true.
yeah, it's such a natural way. And the lotus babies I've seen, they're so different.
Oh,
They are just complete. There is
mm,
no need for them even to cry, because when that happens, mom also is in a totally different
mm,
atmosphere. Yeah, there is no aggression, there
right.
is no departing from something that deep down is felt as an as aggression, an impact on the natural way of things. There is none of that. So mom also ends up with a totally, you could say, in a totally different hormonal atmosphere.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's going to be different. So yeah, it's a departure from ignorance, a
Yeah.
total departure from ignorance, and using your natural instincts
Mm,
again. Yeah, and understanding it. That's
mm,
so important. If people can understand, oh, I
right.
have power at the moment of birth. Power is not taken away, not clipped away. I, as a mom, am in charge of what
Mm,
happens. And what happens is a total natural thing.
mm,
That's so important.
mm. That's amazing. So we have the 3 moms,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so where are we? Are we on
Well,
that?
the second mom is when you're born. Okay, you need mom
Right.
for your support because you're totally vulnerable. We are one of those species that need a mom.
Yeah, very dependent.
Some people for 30 years, but all right, we need a mom. Yeah, to give us what we need to become adults. So our second mom is the mother that we know, but she needs the right chemicals inside. Without the right hormones, she cannot be your mom. She will reject you. So
Mhm.
there is this chemical bond that needs to happen, which is oxytocin, the most important hormone at the moment of birth. Without oxytocin, love is not possible.
Mm,
It's the way that we are wired, that our bodies, we are
mhm.
chemical beings, we are electric beings. It's just the way it is. So if mom gets the chance and the baby also, the natural thing is they will create, both of them will create love. And that will never end, that love.
Right.
So that's the second aspect. And then third aspect is all right, when can you be on your own? Well, you can only be on your own. You can be your own mom if you love yourself. So yeah, that's to me is you being your own mom. Yeah, loving who you are, just being. Yeah, just accepting everything about
Yeah.
yourself without question. And
Mm.
that's then the third mom.
That's amazing. Is all of
Yeah,
this in your new book? Is this in your new book?
yeah, that will all be there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. When do you anticipate having that, or when do you want to proclaim that you'll have that
Oh, that might
optimistically?
take another year. You know,
Yeah.
we're in a lawsuit and that
Oh
goes
no.
so slow, so slow.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you mention the thymus a lot. Um, and is there anything else you need to teach us about that? Or you feel like we covered that well enough?
Well, one of the things about timers is that, and that's again the way we live. We live in such a stressful situation that we do not take enough care of self healing. And
Right.
you know, there is the 84 days that your body lives, but at the same time, you have you live only one day, because at the end of the day you need to go flat. You need
Right.
to regenerate, you need to recycle, you need to do all the things for your body to be fresh for the next day. So since we live such a stressful life, we don't take enough care of that, taking care of the body. And then thymus, directs so many things. And thymus is basically taking care of the body, but doesn't have enough time to also take care of itself.
Mm.
So, yeah, I noticed that in the COVID era, that if thymus gets reinforced regularly, yeah, if you pay attention and regenerate really consciously your thymus, no problem. Your
Right.
immune system is totally, totally with it the whole time, the whole time.
Mhm. That's amazing. And I'm looking forward to learning more about how you approach that, and I'm learning a lot from you. Um, we're excited about interacting with you. I at this point in my life and career, I trust process above just about anything. And you came to us. Some employees of ours here had been to the institute in New Mexico when it was there,
Uh-huh.
and they took a Wilco class there, and I think someone took a class with you, but they came back after a SOAS class with Wilco and said, "We met somebody that you need to meet," and so that's where it started for us.
Yes.
And this came from some very trusted people, and so I didn't ask much. I just started following and having a lot of fun with following, because Wilco Idema is a lot of fun. And so, I'm so glad that you had him for us to meet and enjoy our time with him. But what happened is our resident midwife and body worker here went and got some training from Ami Opal. And so then Ami comes in, and it's like a character of a beautiful play is coming together. And that turned into Wilco saying, "You have to meet Etienne." And I'm like, I would do anything to meet Etienne. And like 12 seconds later, he had you and I on email and then text and all of the things, as you know. Um,
Yes.
I just want I just want you to know how much I trust that process and how honored we are here at Kikino to be interacting with you in any form. But thank you so much for giving us this time.
My pleasure, John. My
Yeah.
pleasure. Yes. Sharing is what life is all about.
It
Yeah.
is, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
so much
thank you.
fun to yeah, connect, to commune. Yeah.
So, I think you're teaching in March. I'm really bad at dates and things, so if
It's
if
end of
if
March.
anybody finds out it's another date, then anyways. But, we do have some spots open for that. We have a lot of those are already filled. I think we're looking for 16 students. But we're working on that over here, and we're doing some deals for people to, take a Wilco class, and kind of looking at the Wilco class in October as a preparatory, possibly a preparatory class for your class, because those things go together really nicely. Not to mention, we do a lot of teaching here too, so we're already interacting with you in many respects because we're getting ready for you. It's important. Um, I if is there oh I know the question I had was, if I put a student in that's not a body worker, that's just a very interested human, is that okay?
Totally.
Thank
To-
you. I thought you would say that, but thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. I have a couple of people that I'm thinking about that are dealing with some chronic trauma. And then I have a couple of people that are counselors or psychotherapists or psychologists.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
so we're looking at a very diverse group. We're not letting anybody in without a pretty solid interview. Um, so again, we're treating this with a lot of reverence, and I
Mm.
appreciate you so much. Um, anything else you need to say? You got anything on your heart before we wrap up here?
I'm just happy to connect to you.
Thank you. I'm equally happy and honored, and I will probably be watching this over and over again.
All
So,
right. Oh, yeah, there was one thing I wanted to
okay,
ask. Can you send me a copy of this so I can put it
of
on my
course,
site? Yeah.
of course, we will. Michael Teehee, from Common Interest Media, who's a dear friend of mine, lives on our property. We all live on the same property.
Ah,
Uh, he's over here to my left here, making sure that everything's working. When he's done, when we're done today, he will move into editing mode to make sure that if we do anything weird, that he takes it out.
all right.
And we'll once that's edited, we'll make sure you have access to it. It'll go on our YouTube channel, but we'll make sure you have access to it and you can use it however you see fit.
Perfect.
Um, of course, you'll have full access to it. So
Thank
thank you. Um, so this has been a great podcast. Thank you so much. There's several things to our audience that I want to mention here. First of all, we're Kikino Institute of Healing, where we train 60 students a year and we see about 800 patients a month. If you are interested and have some sort of complex issue, we're a really good fit for those cases. If you've been called to the area of body work, that's our wheelhouse, is body work, is to train body workers and massage therapists. So our phone number is 972-509-5588, and our website is kekino.com, which is KEKINO.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
All right.